go home early, and those of us that are really interested in getting those prizes, you need to be in the room to win said prize. Is that okay? Fabulous. All right. We have, don't you laugh at me. I've still got six presentations to go on this microphone. I could still come and chat with you. There we go. Right. Are you ready, sir? My first speaker is ready. We are ready. We've got 6 fantastic opportunities for you. And this first one comes to you courtesy of Evolution Energy Minerals. So they have a plan to produce sustainable graphite products for the global green economy. So they've been investigating downstream processing of its coarse flake graphite into graphite foil for electronic devices and also some seals for EVs. Are you still laughing down there? I'll come and introduce me. You sure? Okay. Oh, wait 1 second. Just hold 1 second. Hold. These are like the naughty boys in the back line, Mrs. Muir. This is my tennis coach here, Mrs. Muir, from when I was a child. And she'd have a chat at you, Bruce Griffin. When are you speaking?
Yesterday.
So did you want to come up and speak again today?
It's good. It's good.
So just be quiet there with Mark De Silva and you'll be fine. Or Mrs. Muir here will come and tell you what she used to tell me at tennis and you'll be in trouble down the back line. Right, Phil Hoskins, that's given you enough time to survey your audience, see where the potential problems could lie, and see where the people who are really interested, like Mr. Atkinson here, who might, bring all his investors towards your fantastic product at Evolution Mining. So we're going to Tanzania for this presentation. This fellow here is Phil Hoskins. He is the MD. Would you please make him very welcome?
Thank you. I think Bruce knows the story pretty well. Spent a bit of time with him over the last couple of days, so he could probably substitute up here and do a pretty good job. So, yeah, hi everyone. My name's Phil Hoskins, and I am here to talk about the battery metal thematic. It's a thematic that's really changing the world, and I know we've heard a lot about potential recessions and things over the last couple of days, but I really think that any of the metals that have exposure to that thematic are recession-proof. It really is fantastic, and I'll give you some context of that today. And we've seen a couple of days ago a lot of money being spent by the US to diversify supply away from China, and some really good news for graphite, and we'll be exposed to that. So we'll touch on that. Evolution owns the Chilalo Graphite project in Tanzania. It's a project I've been working on for more than 8 years. It's development ready. It's got a DFS, mining license, environmental approvals, and is ready to be the next cab off the rank into this growing market. One thing that sets our graphite apart is the flake size. The 101 on graphite is that the larger the flake, the higher the price. And so it doesn't matter what price deck you assume, we will always be one of the largest margin producers or developers or producers. We've got some near-term catalysts that are really important. We've got an updated DFS due next month. And we've also got a framework agreement with the Tanzanian government we're expecting to sign in the next month as well. And that gives you the critical stability of fiscal terms required for project financing. I've spent almost 250 days in China over the last 8 years, more than 30 trips trying to meet the different end users, understand the applications for graphite. And the upshot of that is we've signed a binding offtake with the global leader for what's called expandable graphite and graphite foil, and I'll touch on what that means. We've got the only guy in our management team that's built a graphite project outside of China. Michael Bourguignon has built 5 projects on the African continent in the last 12 years. And he built Syra's Balama graphite project in Mozambique. So we've really got that project delivery expertise to be able to make this a winner. And we've got a very supportive cornerstone investor on our register, the Arch Sustainable Resources Fund. They're an ESG focused fund out of the UK, and their stated position is to follow their 25% shareholding through to FID. So just from a corporate overview point of view, 14 million in the bank, thanks to the lovely people at Canaccord who helped us with that recently. But a $55 million market cap really doesn't do justice to the quality of the asset and where we sit relative to others. And you look at the peer group that we're amongst, you've got Nouveau Monde at 400 million, you've got Magnus at 300 million, you've got BlackRock at 200 million. We have a very high quality asset on the cusp of going into production. So we'll fix that with some of these near-term catalysts that I spoke about. Just from a board and management point of view, it's really important in the graphite space. It's unlike any other commodity, so you do need to understand how to commercialize your deposit, and we've got significant expertise across the board and the management team. I mentioned the 8 years I've spent running this project. Our chairman spent 6 years running a Tanzanian graphite developer. Michael, the bearded one in the middle, he's busily back in the office in Perth working on the updated DFS. He's the one that's actually built a graphite mine before. And across the management team, there's 25 years of graphite experience there, and over 50 years of sales and marketing experience from the two on the bottom right, Chris Whiteley in Texas, and Eileen Howe, our Chinese-based advisor. So we're really well-versed on how to commercialize what is a really high-quality product. So into some of the graphite information. So what you might not be aware, that there's more graphite than any other mineral combined in the lithium-ion battery. So 53% of a lithium-ion battery is graphite. And you see here, there's a number of different chemistries being looked at. Nickel and cobalt trying to be engineered out of the battery in the lithium-ion phosphate battery. But what you see across all of those chemistries is graphite as the anode. Drill down that a little bit further on the right-hand side, you've got a man-made substitute called synthetic graphite as well that does take up a lot of the share at the moment, but synthetic graphite is twice as expensive to produce and has a significant carbon footprint. And so all of the anode manufacturers are seeking to move towards natural, and certainly the uptake in graphite supply as we go forward is going to be more and more natural, which is great for us. Now, this is the really important slide, and what's really changing is the supply side of graphite. And you ask yourself the question, well, why do the US and Europe and Japan and Australia, why do they call it a strategic critical mineral? Of course, it's super important to the global decarbonisation, but it is China's dominance of the supply. So you can see here, 80% of the raw material flake graphite supply, 100% of the further processing, the purification, and that word spheronisation that was used a couple of days ago, Christy, is all done in China. And so everyone's really concerned about this. You look at the US, what are they doing about it? Well, they put the Inflation Reduction Act in place, $369 billion for new green energy policies. They've got a $7 billion by BIL that everyone tapped the other day, Syra, Novonix and these sorts of guys. You've got a $17 billion vehicle program that Syra got a $100 million debt facility from, 10 years at 2% interest. This is what these governments are doing to try to secure supply away from China, and Europe's following suit as well with the Critical Minerals Act that was announced during the State of the Union address a few weeks ago. So it really is changing, and China's moved to a net importer. So China imported 30,000 tonnes of graphite from January to August in 2021. They've now imported 110,000 tonnes of graphite in the same months of this year. So they used to be the historical supplier of the world, and now the world's saying where we're going to get it from. What's this done to price? So over the last 12 months, graphite prices have gone up 40%. They've cooled over the last few months, and that's just due to seasonality. So more than 50% of the world's graphite is mined in the Heilongjiang province in the north of China. So these are the summer months in China. So it's peak mining season, but we're about to go into a very cold winter in Heilongjiang. Gets down to minus 35 degrees Celsius there, and they shut down graphite mining and processing. So I am absolutely expecting the price to leg up from here, and this might be one of the catalysts to see graphite finally come to the fore in equity investors' minds and do a lithium. The deficit is significant. Benchmark Mineral Intelligence talking about 97 new mines needing to be built by 2035, the same size as our mine. I'm not even aware of probably any more than 40 mines out there that could be brought on at the moment. So I expect we'll be one of the first of those, though. So we're in Tanzania. A critical thing to understand doing businesses in Africa is financiers want to have certainty in the fiscal terms to ensure that the risk of getting their funding back is ameliorated. We're a month away from signing a framework agreement with the Tanzanian government. It's something we've been working on since 2017. The new government in the last 18 months have really opened up the country, and there's a clear directive to support foreign investors. And so this will be the final document we need to finalise our project financing. And we've got 7 or 8 different banks that have submitted expressions of interest who are happy to bank Tanzania. Just on the project, I won't put the DFS numbers out because they're going to change in a month, but we did have a $340 million NPV on an $87 million CapEx historically with some of the headline numbers. But this is our tenement boundary here, mining license in the middle, and it's a 2-kilometre strike, which basically underpins the 18-year mine life based on reserves. There is over 30 kilometres of conductors that we know is high-grade graphite at surface. We've trenched across a number of these areas. These are electromagnetic conductors. We've got a drill rig heading out there now, and there's no need to drill more for our financing. The reason we're drilling more is because we want to be able to show this is a globally significant size resource. I'm expecting it could be top 10 to 15 by the time we've finished drilling it out. And that's what everyone wants to see. They want to see multi-decade mine life and the ability to expand production into this growing market. The offtake in graphite, this is the critical thing to underpin your revenue line. You need to qualify your material with customers, and then they'll sign offtake agreements to commit to buy. So YXGC, or Yichang Xincheng Graphite Co., it's not a name that sort of rolls off the tongue, but they produce graphite foil that's in every electronic device in this room. So if you've got an iPhone, if you've got a Samsung phone, these guys produce the graphite foil that goes to those companies. And what they need is good quality coarse flake graphite, which is what we have. I've met them many times in that 30 trips, and they've committed to take 30,000 tonnes over 3 years. So this is a significant agreement. They've also agreed with us to go downstream, and rather than just be selling the high value coarse flake graphite concentrate there, you can see a number of these other products here that we can use their technology to manufacture. We've got a joint venture term sheet where we're looking to go downstream in Europe together to produce that very high value stuff over on the right there. So graphite foil for electronics devices, and bipolar plates used in hydrogen batteries as well. So really exciting, and it's unique to us to be able to capture that downstream value. We've also done a hell of a lot of work over this last 12 months to understand how does our graphite perform in lithium-ion batteries. We had spent a hell of a lot of time on the coarse flake qualifications, and this last 12 months has been on the batteries. Very pleased to report that it has performed as good as it can get. Practically doesn't get better than the electrochemical performance that has been received. We're near the theoretical capacity in terms of the amount of power our graphite can put into the battery. And the first cycle loss and irreversible capacity loss is essentially charge after charge, how much of the power you're losing. And these are incredible numbers that will mean that if we can go downstream and produce that finished product using some of this technology, we'll be able to sell into the best EV and energy storage end users in the world. There's economic advantages on how we've gone about this. We've inverted the traditional flow sheet to produce coated spherical graphite. We're purifying first using thermal purification. This is far more environmentally friendly than the hydrofluoric acid that's used by China and by anyone else that's trying to build these. But we know that it works. And I guess over the next 12 months, we're going to be advancing feasibility studies with a real US focus. I mentioned before the amount of funding that's around in the US for building critical mineral supply away from China. We've got a US-based technology partner who has already qualified materials with Tesla. They're the ones working on the technology here with us. We're about to appoint a chief technology officer, US-based. We've got Chris Whiteley, our markets consultant, is US-based. So we absolutely want to get after that US funding and eventually build a downstream processing facility that potentially doesn't dilute our shareholders at all with some of that free money that's out there. So just a little bit of context around how big this whole battery thematic is. So you recently had Tesla approach Panasonic, who are their battery partner, and issue the 2 terawatt-hour challenge. They said, we basically want you to build us 2 terawatt-hours of battery capacity. And here's the context piece. So it's 45 times the size of the existing Nevada Gigafactory. The raw material requirement there on the right-hand side, 2.4 million tonnes per annum of anodes. So that's not graphite. You've got yields to get into the finished product. That's anode materials themselves. And so at the bottom, we've sort of said if we put all of our fine flake graphite into coated spherical graphite using the yields we know we can get, that will only be 0.5% of what Tesla need. Invert that. You need 200 companies doing what we're doing, and we're talking $500 million NPVs for these sorts of opportunities. 200 companies doing that, and so it's no wonder that we're talking about all of these guys. Tesla, even today, talking about we might need to get into mining. Panasonic saying the same thing here. So just to finish off, from the investment proposition point of view, we are an advanced project. There's been 8 years of hard work that's gone into this. It's a very high margin project at existing prices, and that's driven by the coarse flake graphite that we have. And always remember, the coarser the flake, the higher the price. So we don't need to go downstream for our project to have a significant valuation. The market itself is absolutely poised to go higher. that supply-demand dynamic. There just aren't enough mines that have been funded and been able to be brought into production. China aren't able to respond. Sire in Mozambique are doing everything they can, but we're about to head into a low supply winter, and I'm absolutely expecting prices to go up. We've got a real sustainability focus. Haven't spoken about it much in this presentation, but our ESG fund is our cornerstone investor, and everything we do geared around getting Western project finance means we need to have the highest levels of sustainability and ESG. We've had a demonstrated performance in value-added applications, and so if you've got graphite, another takeaway is that you need to qualify it into the value-added applications. Otherwise, you're stuck selling into industrial uses. So to have qualified it into the high-value graphite foil for our coarse flake, and to have qualified our fine flake into lithium-ion batteries, it just doesn't get better than that. And finally, that's a great long-term picture, but the short term is we've got imminent catalysts, the framework agreement with the Tanzanian government, the updated DFS, and that will help us unlock the project finance and as we attack FID early in the new year. So thanks everybody for your time, and we'll be at the booth if we've got any questions.
Thanks, Bill. You were very well behaved at the back. Congratulations. Right. This fellow coming up here right now is a very experienced managing director. He's been involved in a number of projects that you might have heard of. There was Exor and also Renaissance Minerals. What happened there? No? Did I go wrong? Wait. No. We can have a discussion. One of you could pay me some money if one must go before the other. No? All right. Okay. So definitely Justin Tremain. Would you like to hold up your driver's license so I have the right person? Great. Okay, that's good. What were you doing that you were just a little bit behind then, Justin? I beat you to it.
Eager to get up here.
We could just sit here now and watch them have a chat, couldn't we? But we've got things to do. And you're going to tell us all about your Turaco. Do I say Turaco? Turaco.
The national bird of Cote d'Ivoire.
Yeah. Can you say the last one again? Cote
d'Ivoire, or Ivory Coast, if you want the
It sounds
English
beautiful
translation.
the way you say it. And your investment opportunity may be beautiful too as well. Would you please make Mr. Tremain very welcome, everyone?
Well, thanks a lot, and thanks for coming and sticking around on a Friday lunchtime to listen to the stories at the moment. And thanks to Vertical Events and Canaccord for giving Turaco the opportunity to present today. So Turaco is a gold explorer in West Africa, which is not the flavour of the month, obviously at the moment, with a lot of focus on battery metals. But that's where the opportunities, in our view, present, and it's really where the great investment opportunities will come out of, I think, when the gold market swings back to opportunities such as Turaco, which I think is only a matter of time, given what's going on economically and geopolitically in the world. And we're positioning ourselves for that return of positive sentiment towards the gold market. So we're exploring in Cote d'Ivoire. In fact, we're the largest landholder in Cote d'Ivoire with over 7,000 square kilometres. As I've touched on, that's a hugely strategic position with some of the world's biggest gold producers all trying to get into Cote d'Ivoire at the moment. And we all know West Africa yields world-class gold deposits, and that's what we're looking for. But there has been some issues security-wise in West Africa, but that's to the north in places like Burkina Faso, Mali, and that's really putting the spotlight on Cote d'Ivoire, which is a safe place to operate, and that's why the world's biggest gold producers are now trying to go into Cote d'Ivoire. We don't have just one project, we have multiple projects, and we've been active on 3 projects over the last 6 to 12 months when we put this package together, so it's quite new. We've got a team that's done it before. We've taken companies like Turaco through grassroots exploration, discovery, feasibility, and ultimately development, and then ultimately take out by bigger corporates and produced a lot of shareholder value for our shareholders in doing that, not just once, but on multiple times. And the reason we do that is because we move our projects forward very quickly. So in the last 6 months on this ground, we've done over 60,000 metres of drilling. And I don't think you'll find many other exploration companies in the world that have done that amount of drilling over the last 6 months. And that's yielded another discovery for us, which I'll touch on, called the Satama discovery, and I'll run through that. But we actually have 3 discoveries within our portfolio. So as I said, we've got a strong shareholder base who have supported this team previously and have done very well. And we think that we're in the best jurisdiction in the world for finding world-class gold deposits. So we're not going to touch anything that we don't think would deliver plus 1 million to 3 million ounce discovery for us, and that's our target size. So just quickly touching on our board, chaired by John Fitzgerald, very well-known and experienced resource director and executives. It's on boards such as Northern Star Resources and has done pretty much since the formation of that company. Alan Campbell's another director. He most recently was responsible for the discovery of probably the most significant discovery in West Africa in the last 15 years, a deposit called Fekola in Mali, which is now, I think, over 10 million ounces. So, huge, amazing discovery, which he was responsible for. Our other director, Bruce, is actually head of exploration for Resolute. So, very well versed in West Africa and understands the geology there very well. Our chief geologist, Elliot, is spent his entire career actually in West Africa, so somewhat of a West African specialist and knows the beryllium, the rocks in which we're exploring, I'd say better than pretty much everyone. So our share price has come back since we got involved as the current management team to where it was when we all put our own money into this company. After that, the share price did run up. We actually got to a $50 million market capitalisation, at which point some of the most successful and technically focused resource funds out of North America predominantly put money into this company when we were capped at around $50 million and we raised $10 million. So we're well funded. But the share price has come back, which is reflective of the market, and we're now trading at a market capitalisation around, we'll probably touch under $20 million today. And when we got to $50 million, that was actually before we had made what is now emerging as our flagship discovery, the Satama. I touched on our shareholder base. So in fact, top 50 shareholders own 75% of this company. And I'd say 45 of those shareholders have supported this management team on, 2 or 3 prior companies. So they're very sticky. And I'd say, that they own about 300 million shares of our 400 million shares on issue. And there's been about 1 million shares traded in our top 50 over the last 6 months. So very supportive shareholder base. So our share price has really drifted just on light volume from very small shareholders. So here's our position in Côte d'Ivoire. So Côte d'Ivoire has actually about 35% of the Birimian greenstone belt, which yields these world-class deposits in West Africa. But to date, it's only delivered about 5% of the ounces, because most of the exploration focus in the past has been to the north of Burkina and Mali, and obviously also to the east of Ghana. But that's changing now because everyone sees the opportunity in Côte d'Ivoire geologically, the potential, but also it's the safest place to work and it's the most stable place, most stable country in West Africa, with the current government being in power since 2011. Our view is there's no better place to be working in the world for gold exploration. So we've got 4 projects, as I said: Bundiali, Tonga North, Furki in the northern part of the Côte d'Ivoire. And we've worked in this area before and made a discovery which was taken over by Perseus about 18 months ago. So we know that area very well. And then our Ibernia project in central Côte d'Ivoire, where we've recently made a new discovery and is certainly becoming our focus. So just touching on our Ibernia project, it covers 2 permits that you can see there, what we call the Bouaki North permit to the west or left of screen, and then the Satama permit to the east or the right of screen. And this is actually quite indicative of how quickly we can have success in a place like West Africa. We're not looking for deposits undercover or at depth. We're looking for deposits that stick out of the ground. And that leads to very efficient and very quick exploration. So here, these 2 permits had no exploration 15 months ago when we got involved in these projects. We quickly undertook stream sediment sampling, which is identifying anomalous catchment areas, and then we follow that up with soil sampling, and then we drill. And we do some geophysics as well to help that drilling progress. But it's very cost efficient and very quick to go from really just a soil anomaly to a large-scale discovery in the space of 6 to 12 months. And you see that not just in Turaco, but many other companies over the last few years, predictive discovery, for example, in Guinea. So on our 2 permits there, you can see in yellow the soil anomalies that we've defined over the last 12 months. And then we started drilling on the Satama permit, which is a 10-kilometre anomaly out to the right of screen there, along a shear that comes off along a major geological contact. And so that's a 10-kilometre long anomaly. We auger drilled that, which is just drilling in the top 10 metres, and we defined in situ gold mineralisation, high grade, over 4.5 kilometres of that 10 kilometres. So we immediately started drilling, and in fact now we've done 20,000 metres of drilling on this new discovery over the last 6 months, and that's air core and RC drilling down to about 120 metres. And what you see is those little black dots are all the holes that we've drilled. And we've drilled continuous mineralisation over about 2 kilometres, but that sits within a 4.5 kilometre confirmed auger anomaly. So it's completely open to the north there. And then we've recently done geophysics, and that's actually really, as I show you, highlighted this to be a major gold system that we're just really on the tip of the iceberg of. So here you can see some of the results just over that 2 kilometres of strike that we've drilled. Are very consistent from section to section. We've drilled this on 80 metre spacing now over that 2 kilometres, and typically 10 to 30 metres of width at 1 to 2 grams per tonne. I mean, if you had these results in Western Australia, you know, it would be really up in lights. But this is pretty standard for West Africa to be finding sort of 1 to 2 gram ore bodies sitting at surface. So then, as I said, so we could put a resource on that today if we wanted to, but we've chosen not to because obviously the gold market at the moment is not favourable, but it's part of a much bigger gold system. So we want to grow this. And then when the sentiment returns to the gold market, we come out with a significant resource, and obviously our shareholders will benefit from that. So after that drilling that we did, we actually did some what's called induced polarization or IP geophysics over that 4.5K anomaly. And you can see the area that we drilled out to the right there sits on a what we call chargeability anomaly, which is the yellow-green area there. And it's also got which is indicative of sulfide mineralization, which we've seen when we've drilled. It's also got a resistivity anomaly, which is shows quartz veining, which we've seen when we've drilled. So we know the mineralization is associated with these anomalies. But out to the west there, you can see we've got a 4.5 kilometre anomaly, a number of parallel structures there that we haven't drilled yet. So we're just starting auger drilling that actually this week after the wet season's come to an end. And we think this is going to grow into well over 1 million ounce discovery in the foreseeable future. So this probably highlights it a little bit better. This is what we call dipole-dipole IP. So we're looking at depth sections of IP across that 4.5 kilometres. You can see the area that we've drilled to the right of screen there, a faint chargeability anomaly. But you can see this 4.5 and 3 kilometre shear structure to the west that hasn't had any drilling, which provides a much higher response in the IP there. And so we'll see some results emerge from that over the next few months. And then just moving across to the other permit that makes up this project, the Bwaki North permit, which is only about 15 kilometres away. So anything we find here is very much complementary to each other. Once again, no exploration 12 months ago, we've defined huge anomalies. This is a 7 kilometre by 4 kilometre anomaly. We've drilled 2 parts of that anomaly only. We drilled the eastern part and we got so results. I mean, these would be great results if we were here in Western Australia, but for us, we'd move on from these results, such as 13 metres at 1 gram, 12 metres at 1.3. But in the southern anomaly that we drilled, we've got a 100 gram metre intersection, so 3 metres at 35 grams per tonne from 40 metres there. That was just one of 5 or 6 holes that we drilled there. So we'll be back following that up and also testing the rest of the soil anomaly that we have Bwaki North here. And then elsewhere in that permit here, what you see is the stream sediment sampling results that we've done. So this identifies anomalous catchment areas. And the big deposits in West Africa are typically found off stream sediment results of around 15 to 30 ppb gold in the streams from an ultrafine sample. And what you see there in yellow, orange and red is everything over 15 to 25, and in pink there over 100 ppb gold in stream samples. And this is a signature that indicative of plus million ounce deposits. So this permit here, we think is hugely prospective and will yield further discoveries for us over the medium term. And then to quickly change to our northern projects, up here we have the Tonga North and Bundiali and Furki projects. So the Tonga North project is a consolidated exploration position of about 1,500 square kilometres, granted ground. And that sits between one of the biggest deposits in Cote d'Ivoire, Tongan, which is one of Barrick's operations, is about 4 million ounces. Up to the border of Burkina Faso, we basically have all the strike extents, all the greenstone belt between Tongan up to the border. And then on the other side of the border is another operation of Endeavour Mining, which is the Wanyan operation, which is over 3 million ounces. And the targets that we're testing here are the same structures that host those large deposits to the south and to the north of us here. So this is really reasonably early stage exploration, and what you see is various soil anomalies and auger anomalies in the yellow polygons there. And we're systematically going through and testing those anomalies with auger drilling. And then when we get good auger results, with deeper air core and RC drilling. And to give you some example of these targets that this package throws up to us, just last week, we announced some more auger results from what we call Natoga and the P10 prospects. Here, we're getting results such as 27 grams per tonne from bottom of hole augers over 5 kilometres of strike there, and that's never been drilled. So we'll be drilling that over the wet season. Just quickly, our Furky project, which we haven't even got to yet. Also in the north, there's a 16-kilometre gold anomaly here. One part of that's being drilled, which we call Warrigi, to the south. And there's only 18 holes of diamond drilling that was being done there. And you can see the results that was yielded from those 18 holes, 50 metres of sort of 3 to 5 grams per tonne mineralisation in an intrusion. And there's a series of these intrusions along that 16-kilometre corridor, which have not been tested. So once again, potential company maker project for any company on its own. And then the Bundiali project, which is another discovery, and once again, the results are quite spectacular again, typical of what we're exploring for, 900 metres of strike. And you can see some of the results there that speak for itself, typically 20 metres at 2 or 3 grams per tonne over that 900 metres there. So all of our projects have the potential to be company makers in themselves, and we're not just sitting on them, we're very active with the drilling. So we've just come to the end of the wet season in Côte d'Ivoire over the last couple of months, and you'll see us recommence drilling. In fact, we've recommenced drilling this week with auger drilling, and then an RC rig will start drilling in November. That'll be at our Bernier project, and then we'll progress also our Tonga North and hopefully our Furky project as well over the next 6 months. So that's Turaco Gold. I'll be around for a little bit. There's a bit to get through, so please, come by and ask any questions, or otherwise my email's up there, and feel free at any time to get in contact and have a chat about Turaco. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Justin. Much appreciated. And we'll have another question up our little sleeve there when we go to quiz nights too now. If they ask us about what that national bird is, we'll be onto that one straight away. Great project. Thank you. Now, this fellow is indeed double checking the fantastic Dr. Matthew Greentree. We are correct, aren't we?
We are correct. Yeah,
so you will all know, if you've been a regular at any of our vertical events, conferences, you will be able to positively identify this human being. He's a wonderful supporter of us, and we always love to have him on board. And today he has a massive potential investment prospect for all of you. We're talking about Ausgold. So they've got their flagship Katanning Gold project here in WA. Loads happening in there with your maiden ore reserve. I'm just going to hand it over to you. You can tell them, because the idea is they want to become Australia's next mid-tier gold producer. So let's find out how they're going to do it. Would you make him welcome, everyone?
All right, thank you. Look, I'm here today to really take you through what Ausgold's been doing over the last couple of years, and particularly our focus has been not far from here at the Katanning area, the Katanning Gold project. So you can see in that front slide a picture of the historic mine there. So this project's been around for a while, but what we've done over the last 2 years or so, and really the last year, it's really advanced very quickly, is understand the geology and start unlocking the potential of resource of this project. And we'll also talk to later in the presentation about what we think in terms of scale, what this could be beyond what we're presenting today. This is up on our website, so feel free to download, and the disclaimers there. Very briefly, we've got a very experienced and competent board and management. Company's been around for a while, but within the register, it's actually fairly tight in the sense that the top 40 own about 60% of the shares on issue, with directors holding about 12% of those. I've got limited time, so I really want to get onto what we're doing and what the project looks like. We've just released a pre-feasibility study, and the main outcome of that was a maiden ore reserve, which gave us a 1.2 million ounce maiden ore reserve. And that's a large mine. It gives us 11 years of mine life. One of the highlights of that is the early payback of about 18 months. Within that first few years, the first 6 years, we're producing 126,000 ounces per annum. So by any measure, that's a very significant project, and it's well supported because it's quite close to Perth. Katanning's only a 3.5-hour drive out of Perth, and it's got local community there, connection to grid. And I think that really plays out into the economics of this project as well. So we see a very high internal rate of return of over 40%. And this has been done at a fairly conservative view on the gold price of a $1,300 gold price, $2,300 gold price. And I think when you look at that closer to spot, those metrics improve immeasurably. Where that puts us in our peers, like all MDs, we're saying we're undervalued, but I think the reality is this project's probably flying a little under the radar. And really, with that maiden ore reserve, we're in a fairly scarce field of large undeveloped open cut projects in Western Australia, particularly. This is all free milling ore as well. So it really differentiates itself. And you can see the other major ore reserves sitting out there. Bellevue's on one end there. And really the main comparison is that scale of project. So I think you'll start to hear a lot more about the Katanning Gold project as it advances. And there's a lot of opportunity for uplift there. So what is Katanning? It's a large ore body, as I've described. It's over 2 million ounces in resource at the moment established, and we're looking to build upon that. We've just added nearly 1 million ounces over the last year. We've done that at a very low discovery cost of about $11 per resource ounce. And that's really testament to our understanding of the geology. And we've also been able to throw a few tools at it like downhole EM, which has been very significant in outlining some of these high-grade areas that I'll take you through in the resource. And it gives us an opportunity to be very, very surgical with our drilling and really hit these high-grade zones, which add a lot of value to the project. Our pre-feasibility study gives us a long life of mine. There's also a lot of options around that we're investigating as we lead into our definitive studies at the moment. But that looks at a much larger project within our current resource base. And that's really supported by the really fantastic financial outcomes we showed in the pre-feasibility study. Things like power are really important. We've heard a lot about energy over the last 6 to 12 months with the invasion of Ukraine and the escalation of diesel prices. We've got access to grid power, which has been really important. But we've also looked at other options as well, such as LNG. And both those options really give us good financial outcomes to this project. Having a town nearby, sealed roads, makes development of this project quite straightforward. There's no, I guess, greenfields delivery of camps and airports and things like that. They're already established. We were first movers in this belt in the southwest Yilgarn. We've got 5,500 square kilometres. It's very, very prospective. We've got a number of places to go apart from our main project area as well in terms of discovery. So I'll take you through that later in the presentation. And you can also see on that map there, a lot of the majors have started looking in our region as well. You can see Anglo American with a very large 10,000 square kilometre ground holding near us. To the north, there's also, of course, Chalice Gold Mines with their Julimar discovery, and to the south of us, FMG's taken a strategic view on the energy metals there with lithium potential. And that's really supported with the Greenbushes mine just to the west of us. So what does Katanning look like? It's a fairly long ore body. You can see most of the work there is what we call the central zone. It's all open pittable, some very high grades amongst that resource area. We've got a very high portion of measured and indicated, it's about 80%. So we've got a very good understanding of this ore body. And I think that's important. It de-risks the project as we go into development. You can see there's a few gaps in those resource areas. One of those notably is the Rifle Range area, and that's a place that we've been working up over the last 6 to 12 months. And also what we call the Southern Zone, which is this area down here. And these areas are all mineralized, but we've really been focusing in on, I guess, the low-hanging fruit, what we call the Central Zone, and that's given us that over 1 million ounces in reserve. So what does the study look like? It's 11-year life of mine. I've got over 100,000 ounces over those 11 years. But the first 6 years really make a big impact because the grade's much higher early on. And it also gives us a good cash injection just when you need it as you're paying down your initial capital. It's a large ore reserve of over 1.28 million ounces. There's very few plus 1 million ounce ore reserves out there that haven't been developed. So this is going to be a mine. We base that on a 3 million tonne per annum plant on site. It's straightforward, conventional gravity and CIL. There's nothing unusual about this ore body or difficult. Very high recoveries, over 90% life of mine. And within that, there's some very high gravity components to that. Up to 70% comes out in gravity, particularly in those high grade zones. And again, we've got access to grid power, and it also gives us some opportunities to bring on established renewable sources. There's been a wind farm just to the west of us at Kojana that's been developed, and we're in discussions to see if we can bring that into the mix with our power needs. Really just going through the same, I guess, more detail, but one of the things I would say to this slide particularly is that we based our financial model on a fairly conservative gold price of 2,300. If you take that to spot, that NPV increases quite considerably to over $550 million. And there's also, you know, the increase of the internal rate of return. So what I'll briefly cover is what we see in terms of upside. We're about to start drilling in November, so we'll start to see some of those new results come through, but there's also some results that are not included in our current resource that we drilled post our May resource upgrade, and we already see some opportunities to build out our 2.16 million ounce resource. So as I mentioned, we've broken our main trend, which is over 17 kilometers. You can see that aeromagnetic image with the colors on the left-hand side there, which is golden soils. You can see the central zone is the main part of the ore body. But we've also got that southern zone, which we see as an opportunity for growth. It's about 8 kilometers long within that 17 kilometer belt. And there's also those areas to the north, which really haven't seen as much exploration, because we've really been focused on showing the economics in that main central zone. So there's within our main project area, which is majority under mining licenses, there's a lot of growth potential. Understanding the ore body itself has been important. It's a folded ore body with some very high grade components, as you can see in that map there, with a number of intercepts on that. Those controls, those fold hinges, are what drive the geometry of the ore body, and that's been really important to understanding how to explore it. And also the correlation with pyrrhotite, which is a conductor and responsive to downhole EM, and that's really been quite advantageous in exploration. You can also see in that bottom cross section that our current optimized pits haven't quite got there, because we hadn't drilled some of those holes when we did the ore reserve. So there's already opportunities we see to expand our current reserve position. The other thing that we've been looking at, and you can see some of those recent drill results, these ones did come after our resource as well. So there's already opportunities to increase that resource, and particularly start looking at those grades, because they're grades that would support an underground. We've only looked at the open pit component in our resource and reserve position, but what we're going to start looking at is that down plunge component. You can see in that area there, that big gap. We've got some downhole conductors there. We've tested one. We're going back down that hole and doing some more work with some daughter holes, and I think there's some opportunities. It's underground, but it's quite shallow. It's about 350 meters vertical depth, so it's not particularly deep. Most of the drilling in this project's really limited to the top 150 meters. So there's a lot of opportunity to make this a lot bigger. Also looking to the south, we've got the Dingo deposit there. It's a small component of the main resource. It's about 220,000 ounces. You can see some really nice grades there from our recent drilling. But what really strikes me is the opportunity to increase to the south here. That strike length, those red areas are 0.1 gram per tonne in air core drilling, so we can see the potential to actually grow that resource to the south. And quickly, I'll just talk about our regional potential. I've talked a lot about gold, and we have a lot of upside, particularly in that northeastern component, and I'll talk quickly about Doug and Stanley. We've also kept our eyes open about nickel PGEs and lithium, because we are in the right part of the world. There are a lot of pegmatites around here, and there's some mafic, ultramafic laid intrusive complexes as well at that Woodanilling area. Oops, Just got ahead of myself there. So Duggan's a recent discovery. You can see some great results there, early days on that. But what we see that as a satellite to the main operation, there's potential for scale here as well. The grades there would support any trucking operation to the main Katanning project, but we're keeping our mind open about that potential scale. Likewise with Stanley, we're yet to get on the ground, but some of the historic results there are very enticing. And we're going there with a new view with some of the things we've learned from the main Katanning project. So there's an opportunity to really realise some of that potential. So just in summary, we've already got a large established resource. We've proven that this is going to be a mine. We've got a maiden ore reserve out there, long life of mine, really good economics and potential there. And we've still got a view that this is going to be a lot bigger with further discovery. We've got a large ground position and we're looking at that and looking at the value in that. So thank you for listening. I'll be around for a bit longer, so feel free to come by the booth.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Right. Our next presenter up on stage grew up in a little house down on Killarney Street, heart of the goldfields, got himself bitten well and truly by the exploration and minerals bug out there. Probably like many of us, did you grow up with a big clothesline out the back and smashing the fool's gold to get the little bits out? Is that your, yeah? I'll give you more details on his background. His mother's actually out here in the middle here and looking forward to hearing your presentation, Mr. Muir. Shall we? We'll push on. 1993, you graduated as a geologist. You've got a lot of experience in that area. You've also been working for Argonauts as well. So you've got an interesting career on both sides of the fence there. Today, you're here with us as Managing Director of Caprice Resources. And he's going to give us an introduction to the company, both its Murchison Gold and the Northampton polymetallic projects. And they're both located, of course, in WA. Would you please make welcome Andrew Muir, everyone?
Thanks, Chrissy. Thanks, everybody, for sticking around for the last session of what's been a fantastic conference. So, yes, I'm here to tell you the Caprice story. Usual disclaimer, competent person statement, etc. So, just a really quick snapshot, why invest in Caprice? So, we've got high quality projects. We've got the Murchison Gold, strategic location, great neighbourhood, highly prospective. And then we've got Northampton, polymetallic, range of different metals, high grades, major land position, and we're also looking at new mineralisation concepts which will potentially unlock it. Fantastic risk reward, given a market cap and the upside, hugely leveraged to exploration success. And we've got high impact drilling. We'll have some gold results coming out shortly, and we'll be looking at drilling Northampton in the near future. And of course, management strongly aligned to the success of the company. So quickly, corporate snapshot. Our share price there is probably mirrored in most junior gold companies over the past 6 to 12 months. Unfortunately, it's the nature of the beast, but we're positioning ourselves so that when things turn, the assets will be in a good position. And as I said, highly leveraged to any sort of exploration success. The other key takeaway, I guess, from the capital is the capital structure there. We've only got 82 million shares on issue, which, considering we've been listed for just over 4 years, is a pretty good effort. Quick look into board and management, good mix of legal background with David Church, myself. I'm a geologist and finance executive. Adam Meek's got similar background to me, but probably more biased towards the corporate. And then Mick Caruso's been around, had boots on ground, good earth moving background and knows the Q area really, really well. But probably the most important person on the page is my exploration manager, Chris Orshot, absolute jet, very smart guy, very motivated, and is the real driver behind all of the exploration focus that we're doing and project assessment, etc. So just high level on our assets that we've got. So as you can see, we've got the Murchison Gold projects. They're located near Kew and Mount Magnet in Western Australia. And then we've got the large Northampton polymetallic project, obviously tier 1 jurisdiction, WA, best operating place to go exploring in the world. So Murchison, as I said, high grade historic production. We've also had a discovery at Solace as part of the Island Gold project. We picked up Cutting Warren Big Bell South roughly a year ago to bolster our holding in that part of the world. All of the projects have had minimal exploration on them, even though obviously gold's been explored for and found in that part of the world for a long period of time. A large portion of it haven't been tested, largely because it's under salt lakes. And one of the other key important aspects about Murchison, we're within trucking distance to 2 to 3 operating gold plants. So a great place to be. Northampton, that's a completely different kettle of fish, but in very much a good way. Highly prospective polymetallic geology. It's had a number of high-grade historic mines there, but has had really minimal exploration for the last 50 years. And of course, we know that area is chock full of pegmatite, so nobody's looked for any rare metals in that part of the world as far as we're aware. So there may not be anything there, but until we have do an assessment and have a look, we won't know. So you've got to try those things. So zooming into the Murchison, as I said, tier 1 location, proven gold district, highly prolific region. Over 15 million ounces have been extracted and found from this part of the world, and mineralisation is still being found. Great location. We're wrapped around by Musgrave and the Musgrave Evolution on 3 sides. They're still having some fantastic drill success. Evolution put out some good results yesterday. Those results are about 1 kilometre to the west of our island. So as I said, there's still gold being found. We've got Ramelius and Westgold operating plants straight up and down the Great Northern Highway, which runs through our ground. And as I said, all of the projects are underexplored. So zooming in a bit, this is the Island Gold project. So we acquired this in October 2020. It's got historical high-grade mineralisation popping out of banded iron formations on the island. That was mined by the old timers at the turn of last century. And really up until the start of this year, that had been the entire focus for exploration on the island. We really like the island, but we also recognise the potential that sits underneath Lake Austin. And Lake Austin, that's the perfect example of good geology, but has never been tested because it sits under Salt Lake. So we've been pretty active there over the last 12 to 18 months. As you can see, we've had RC drilling on the island, and we've done air core and RC drilling at Solace. So zooming in further to Solace, this is on the southern fringe of Lake Austin. So this had been never drilled before, never tested for anything, no soil sampling or nothing. The geology looked quite good. The aeromagnetics was relatively benign, but we were really keen on getting out there and testing it. So we undertook a couple of air core programs, first one in January this year, then a follow-up one not long after that. And we came up with some quite reasonable results, considering it's the very first time it's being tested. A large gold anomaly over 1 kilometre long, and very much validates our proof of concept that there's gold sitting outside of the island itself. We followed that up with some RC drilling. We did a small program, 15 holes for just over 1,400 metres, and came up with some really, really good results. 4 metres at 4.4 is obviously the standout, including 1 metre 11, and a couple of other sort of plus grams. So again, it justified our concept of stepping off the island and testing underneath the lake. We've also recently completed another follow-up program, 13 holes for just over 1,500 metres, and those results will be out imminently, probably in the next week or two, would be my guesstimate. So yeah, Solace is looking really, really interesting, and we'll see how that goes. And just stepping back a bit, we did quite a large RC program late last year and earlier on this year. As you can see from all these results, which I'm not going to go through it, there's a lot of gold sitting there, and we've got a lot more work to do, follow it up. The key thing too is most of the drilling has been relatively shallow and less than 100 metres deep. So there's a lot of gold in the system here. Stepping back a bit, Cutting Warren, Big Bell South though. So we recognise the Island Gold project's a great location, strategic. However, it's relatively small. So what we were looking at doing is increasing our sort of critical mass in this part of the world. So formed a joint venture, 80-20 JV with Golden State Mining. We picked up Cutting Warren and Big Bell South. So we're looking at getting on that ground soon, probably initially with some geophysics and soil sampling. Really like the geology, as you can see there from the aeromagnetics, there's a lot going on. We've already completed a targeting study, so we're looking at getting on the ground sooner rather than later to start work on those projects. Now across to Northampton. Northampton's really an intriguing prospect, polymetallic, high-grade historical mining. So there was over 100 high-grade mines between the mid-1800s and the 1970s. The dominant metal focused was lead, but they also extracted copper, zinc, and silver. One of the interesting things is that when they got to copper-rich zones within these deposits, they stopped mining. So that's one of the things that we're keen on investigating further, the zoning within these styles of deposits. And even though there's been that long history of mining, there's been no modern exploration really for the last 50 years. We did some drilling in 2020, following up one of those historical workings, and we got some cracking results, 17 metres at 8% lead, including 5 at 17. And in another hole, we got 12 metres at almost 3% copper. So fantastic results from the very first drill program, but that was drilling in and around the historic workings. Where we're actually focusing on now is down at the southern end of this tenement package at a prospect which we call Yungaro. So one of the concepts, I suppose, that we have is that most of the deposits here, all of the deposits are structurally related. So it's a bit like looking for narrow vein gold deposits. So you need to understand the structures and the fluid flow for where these things form. Most of the deposits that have been mined have followed a northeast-southwest orientation following the existing structures. Where we're really quite intrigued is down at the southern end of our tenement package. The mineralisation is associated with a north-south structure. So for those that understand gold, often where you get an intersection of two different structures is you can get a big blowout in mineralisation. So first pass for us is to test the north-south oriented mineralisation down the south, that's at Yungaro. One of the key aspects, I suppose, about this part of the world is it's in farming country. So you can't just rock up with a drill rig. As you know, we need to put in access agreement. So we've got an access agreement in place to go and drill Yungaro. So we'll be looking at doing that once the crops are finished. So that'll probably be in early December. We'll put an RC rig on that. We'll test the north-south strike concept. If that comes up, then we'll be looking at other areas, basically on the eastern side of our tenement package. We pegged that last year. All that ground was completely open. So no one has looked for this concept at all, and no one's done any work for 50 years. So we're really, really excited about what this could mean, albeit it's going to be a little bit of slow going because it's in wheat belt country. But if the mineralisation's there, we've got our foothold on it, and it's really, really exciting what this could potentially mean. So in terms of work plan at Northampton, so as I said, we've got the access agreement signed, the compensation access agreement with the pastoralist. He's very much on board, and we've got a great relationship with him. So that's going to enable our first round of drilling, as I said, probably in early December. We've actually just finished a detailed aeromagnetic survey. As I said, most of these deposits are related to the structure, so you really need to understand the orientation of these structures and get a lot more detail around them. So that aeromagnetic survey will significantly help with that. And the last thing that we're doing, as I touched on before, Northampton's known to have a lot of pegmatites in this part of the world. So there's plenty of granite source rocks that are there. It's really just a case of, right, we need to actually assess what the possibility is for these rare metals. No one's really done that before. So there may not be anything there, who knows, but we need to at least do the work to assess the potential for that. Would be remiss if we didn't at least have a look at it. So we'll see what that turns up, but in the meantime, we'll still be drilling soon, chasing lead and copper. So just to recap, just a quick snapshot. So as I said, exploring all fronts. So Murchison, great location, great neighbours, highly prospective. and we'll have drill results coming out on that soon. Northampton, as I said before, high base metal grades, great land position, testing some new mineralizing concepts, drilling soon. Highly leveraged to success. If we get more success at Solace, or we come back with some good results at Northampton, huge upside. And as I said, management aligned to success, very motivated to make this a winner. So that's it from me. We'll still be at the booth for a little while, come past for a chocolate or a mint and have a gas bag. We've got some nice rocks there as well, for those that are hanging around after this. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you very much, Andrew. And unknowingly, whilst you were doing that, you became the second last presenter at Southwest Connect this year, because our final presenter has had a few health issues this morning and they're not going to make it. So my apologies. It was Orthocell on the end of your project there. So they have actually presented for us before. You can go back and have a look at what they presented in the past, but I would strongly advise that you do have a look at the company and follow them up because it's interesting as an investment opportunity, but also in the biotech that they have invented and developed. How are you feeling, sir?
Very good.
Fantastic. You're going to be rounding us out, so let's make it a good punchy one. So this is young Tim, everyone, Tim Davidson. He's the managing director from Meeka. Now, there's been a bit of chatter about you guys recently, hasn't there? You were drilling, you stopped drilling.
There's a lot of drilling going on. We've got 3 drill rigs running at the moment. Very exciting. Lots going on. I'll talk a little bit about it today.
Okay, well, I'm interested to hear it because it sounds like size really does matter at the moment with you guys. There's quite a lot happening. Would you make him very welcome, everyone? We're going to go up to the Murchison and then we're going to go down to Esperance. Make Tim welcome to take us out today.
Thanks very much, Chrissy. And you've done a fantastic job. Really, you do. All of these conferences, she does a magnificent job. Master of ceremonies, so really good. In terms of Meeka, look, rounding out this conference, it's great to be here. I'll keep it punchy. The company led by a proven board and management team. And what I mean by that is the board and management have had success identifying, discovering, and building value through discovery, but also through development. So that's a really important differentiator. So not only have we identified and discovered resource projects, but we've put them into production. You'll note that Roger, one of our directors, he was recently involved in the Apollo, the discovery of the Rebecca deposit, which Apollo had taken out by Ramelius. Paul Adams, managing director of Spectrum, found the Penny West deposit, again taken out by Ramelius. Duncan Franey, our exploration manager, he was involved in the discovery of Tampia. Now there's a theme here that was also taken out by Ramelius. Paul Chapman, our chairman, joined in May of this year. Very experienced. I don't need to introduce him to any of you who have been involved in the resources space or investing in resources companies. He's a very well-known and very highly credentialed executive, founding shareholder and founding chairman of Silver Lake Resources. So look, really experienced board and management team. And the other thing that I'll point out is that we've put our own money into this business. So we're not expecting shareholders to put money in where we haven't. So we've backed the company to the tune of $2.2 million to date. We recently the directors put another $550,000 in when we raised money in August of this year. So we're committed. We're putting our own money behind it, and we think we've got some fantastic projects to work. Now, in terms of the capital structure, we closed yesterday at 6.3 cents. It gives us a market cap of around $65 million. We're well funded. We've got 8 million. We closed last quarter with about $8 million in the bank, around $60 million EV. So in terms of what underpins the value of the business, we're really underpinned by a 1.1 million ounce gold resource in the Murchison. So very valuable deposit. That looks like it's growing. It's strategically located, serviced by fantastic infrastructure. We own it 100%. We're onto what we believe is an important discovery, again, in the gold space at Circle Valley. And then through that work, we've identified a high-grade clay-type rare earth opportunity. I won't talk a lot about the rare earth opportunity today. We recently presented at New World Metal Conference. That presentation is on the website. It goes in depth on both our projects and the drivers and why we're so excited by the rare earth opportunity, the drivers behind the pricing and rare earths and why we think they're going a lot higher. So specifically the Murchison project, as I said, strategically located. It's well serviced by very, very good infrastructure. The Great Northern Highway runs directly past our front gate. We've got an airport in Meeka, which we use to fly our crews in and out. We own that project 100%. The mineral resources on that project, very high confidence. They've been very well drilled, 65% in the measured and indicated classification. We want to put this project back into production. We put out a scoping study in December of last year that identified an 8-year mine life, roughly 50,000 ounces per annum production over that 8 years, delivers in the order of $180 million of free cash, and we produce around 440,000 ounces of gold. So that was an important first step for us. We were planning on putting a pre-feasibility study out in September, so last month. We've pushed that back because we've had some fantastic drill results and what we think is a meaningful discovery in the Murchison at our St. Anne's prospect. So I'll talk about that. But the key focus for the business now is on growing that resource, growing the size of that production plan that we outlined in the scoping study, and growing the mine life. Now, in terms of what's guiding our exploration, we've got a fantastic data set. When we bought this project in February of last year, we picked up over $30 million has been spent on the geological data set that we now have over this project. You'll notice that there's 800,000 meters of drilling in that data set. That's fantastic. The other thing that I'll point out is nearly all of that drilling is focused on Andy Well and Turnberry, where we have the two resources. So what that means is that the resources we've got are very well drilled out, but the greenstone belts outside of those resources have hardly been touched. And that's where we've made this exciting St. Anne's discovery. And that's where we think we're going to find more gold. So fantastic data set. Very limited exploration outside of those resources to date, and certainly some fantastic results with the drilling that we have done. Now, quickly touching on the work that we completed late last year and early this year. Now, this was focusing on depth extensions to the Turnberry deposit. This is a key part of our mining plan. We drilled underneath the pit to see what we could find there. We got some very broad zones of high-grade gold mineralisation. And something that we think is amenable to underground mining. So certainly an opportunity to go underground once the pits are finished. This deposit's never been mined, 610,000 ounces. We think that's going to grow based on the drill results we've got. Now, talking about where the opportunity is outside of that resource. So if you look at this is a north-south stretch section along the shear corridor that hosts the Turnberry deposit. It's also the same shear zone that hosts the St. Anne's deposit. This is a recent discovery. We started drilling there in June of this year, and you can see some of the results on the slide there. Just outstanding. 20 meters at 20 grams, 32 at 16, and then a number of other results between 15 and 30 meters at sort of 1.5 to 4.5 grams. So very, very, very exciting. We're seeing a lot of similarities in the aeromag data to the north of St. Anne's, between Turnberry and St. Anne's, areas that haven't been drilled, and then to the north of Turnberry itself. Again, same geology. That greenstone belt extends to the north of Turnberry and to the south of St. Anne's, has hardly been tested by drilling. And we're seeing some really, really important similarities in that aeromag data between what we see at St. Anne's and Turnberry and that corridor outside of the areas we've completed drilling. So that's really exciting. Now, St. Anne's, the drilling to date, we've put about 30,000 meters into this prospect over the last 4 months. And what we're seeing is a quartz-hosted, very high-grade gold deposit. You can see on the slide there, that photo at the bottom right-hand side of the slide shows you some of the gold that we're seeing in that drilling. Very nuggety, very large chunks of gold. This deposit, I said, we put about 30,000 meters into it. It's about 800 meters of strike. We've drilled from surface down to about 100 meters below surface. So again, we put a lot of meters into it, but we've only just scratched the surface. So we're currently in the process of putting some deeper holes in it at St. Anne's down below this drilling. If you look on the slide there, see if I can get this laser pointer to work, but just there we drilled 5 RC holes underneath that high-grade oxide mineralisation, and we got some really good indications. These were the first holes that we've drilled into the fresh rock. That returned some nuggety visible gold, so that's a really good indication of what's down there. We don't have the assays for those results yet. We expect to get those in the next 2 to 3 weeks. But the other thing that we've done is we've just started diamond drilling underneath that. So looking for some depth extensions to that mineralization. And that's turning up some really exciting looking geology as well. So to date, this deposit has really been, or the drilling on this deposit has really been focused on that top 100 meters. We're going to get a resource out for this in December. We expect that, to be an evolving process. We'll likely put one out in December, and then again early in 2023 as we get more results and get more information. But that initial resource will focus on that oxide part of the mineralization. So from surface down to about 100 meters below surface, looking really good. And as I said, the drilling that we're doing, the deeper drilling that we're doing, both with the diamond drilling and the RC, is also looking very positive. So this is some of the visible gold that was returned in that one of those first RC drill holes that we drilled below the oxide horizon. So it's clearly not just a supergene gold deposit. There's some strong mineralization we're seeing down in the fresh rock, and certainly we're in the process of following that up now with RC and diamond drilling. So very exciting in the Murchison. Briefly touching on our Circle Valley project. Now this is in southern WA. It's about 100 kilometres north of Esperance. We went down to work on this project looking for gold, and we've had some great success. We've also identified rare earths on this tenure, and that's led us to securing additional ground down in this region. But just talking about the gold briefly. So up until January of this year, this project area had very limited exploration drilling on it. We went down with a view to go and understand what the underlying geology was below the regolith. We had some very good success with the air core drilling. On the back of that, we went and started doing some deeper RC drilling. And what you need to understand about this terrain or this region is that the regolith it should be completely devoid of and stripped of mineralization, so completely depleted, which means that when you see very low level gold anomalism in the regolith, that's a very important indication to what's below in the fresh rock. And we got some really good siders in that regolith profile. Followed that up with some deeper RC drilling in January, and the very first hole that we drilled, we hit 23 meters at 5 grams. You can see on the slide there's a number of other intersections, a long strike from that first hole to the east, a long strike to the east, and we're actually in the process right now of drilling some diamond drill holes underneath and a long strike from those results that you see there. So what we're seeing in that diamond drilling is giving us a really good understanding of the structural setting, the controls on mineralization, and what that mineralization actually looks like. It's a little bit hard to determine that when you're getting the rock chips, or the information you're getting is very limited, and really it's just grade. So having the diamond drilling that's going into the ground now and underway currently will be really important in terms of framing the next steps of exploration on this project, which we plan to kick off in January of next year. So drilling currently underway. That program's a short structural program. We'll finish in the next week or so, and then we'll go in with a much larger drill program in January of next year. Now, just quickly touching on the rare earths, and as I said, there's a really what I think is I'm a little bit biased, but what I think is a great presentation that reviews our rare earth opportunity and why we see so much value around this opportunity. It's on our website. It was the future New World Metals presentation we put out a few weeks ago. But just quickly touching on the rare earth space, this is a fantastic opportunity for us. It's a province scale opportunity. We've got 2,500 square kilometres of pristine tenure. We own it 100%. It's not a joint venture or shared ownership, where we have access to fantastic infrastructure. We've got sealed roads running through or adjacent to our tenure. The energy or the power set up down there's wind and solar, abundant, available. It's very fertile geology. We've got drilling. I said we've got 2,500 square kilometres of tenure. We've got drilling covering around 1,200 square kilometres of that tenure, and it shows that there's very high grade clay type mineralisation on our ground. And we've also completed some first pass met test work, which is giving us some positive indications. Really, the key thing with this clay type mineralisation, rare earth mineralisation, is unlocking the metallurgy, and that's really what's going to deliver the value for these projects, and that's a key focus for us over the next 12 months. So just quickly touching on Circle Valley. So we went to Circle Valley, we drilled at Circle Valley looking for gold. We had great success. I've just spoken about the gold success we've had. We also identified through the XRF analysis that we were doing with those drill samples, this rare earth, clay type rare earth mineralization. We followed it up with some additional drilling. We're seeing, grades well and truly above 1,000 ppm, reasonably good thicknesses. And you can see a section on the slide there of what the mineralization looks like in the ground. So look, this is an opportunity that we think will evolve. We think it's going to have significant value. There's work we need to do predominantly on the MET, but it's got all the key characteristics of a very valuable project. And what I mean by that is it's got a very high proportion of those magnet metals, which are the in demand. If you look at the 15 elements that make up rare earth metals, really the key value drivers or the drivers behind the economics of these projects is neodymium, praseodymium, the NdPr elements, as well as some of the other the other magnet metals. But what we see in the drilling here is we've got very high percentages of those NdPr elements. We've got grades, total grades up to 5,700 at Cascade. It's a little bit higher at Circle Valley. We've got grades over 6,000 ppm. Very similar distribution of elements within the grades for those two projects, and a significant land holding down there. Outside of the areas where we've got drilling, we have surface samples. So this is the northern part of Cascade. What we're seeing in the surface samples, and what you need to understand again is at surface in this region, you generally have a depleted horizon at surface and the grade accumulates down at depth. The fact that we're seeing grades up to, in this instance, 633 ppm total rare earth grades at surface is quite exciting. If you have a look at that area down the bottom, that's a very compelling follow-up target. Again, this is about 1,000 square kilometres, slightly over 1,000 square kilometres of our tenure, no drilling at all. And you've got an area there that's sort of 10 kilometres north to south by about 20 kilometres east to west. So significant scale, very high grades at surface, which is anomalous. And we're very excited to get the opportunity to go and do some more drilling there later. Likely towards the middle of next year. Just briefly touching on the MET. So this is really what's going to deliver the value for these projects, is unlocking the metallurgy. So we think that there's another number of companies that are working down in that region that have identified these clay type rare earths on their tenure. Very similar grades to us, very similar distribution of elements within that grade, and that's a function of the underlying geology. So really the key for us and all of our fellow resource companies down there looking at the clay space is understanding the MET, and we think that we've got, we understand what we need to do to get that MET sorted. It's probably a 12 to 18 month process, and we're currently working with some specialist consultants to work through that. So if I can leave you just with a quick outline of what we've got coming up over the next 12 months. From a gold perspective, the bottom of this slide, really important to get the structural understanding at Circle Valley, and then follow that up with some more RC drilling in January of next year. Resource definition drilling at St. Anne's, which is ongoing, and the mining study or the pre-feasibility study, which we're pushed out from September through to the middle of next year, based on our desire to include St. Anne's in that, and then some ongoing work with the rare earths. So thanks very much. Appreciate you sticking around for the last time slot, and enjoy the weekend.
Thank you, Timothy. You almost got me at the start there. You're buttering me up so nicely that I forgot to press the timer. Yeah, it worked. It worked. I was momentarily thrown off my game, but someone up the back there came forward and said, ding him now. He's done. But thank you so much. And it was a great presentation. Always good to end or to any part of our program with Meeka, because there's always something interesting and big happening with them. Enjoyed yourselves, feel educated, potentially a lot of investment potential. Do you know we went through more than 1,000 pies in the last 3 days? That's impressive. I was impressed. We went through many crates of beer and many boxes of wine as well, thanks to Keynote, if any of the team is still here at the moment. So we did impressively well. And also a big thanks to those of you that joined us online as well. We hope you got as much out of it as we did here in the room. And a reminder that you can follow up with everything online, and those addresses and phone numbers, etc., are on our presenters' websites. I'm not going to see you again for a little while. My name is on the program for November for RIU. Jerry will be with you, all things well. So I'll see you again. If you want to come over to the Gold Coast and join me in June, I'd love to see you. That is a fantastic mixed investment conference that we do. Otherwise, I'll be back here same time next year. Jackson, you want to come up and have a chat before we do our last prize for the day? This is the fellow that puts these conferences together. He vets the people that you get to see. So make him welcome, please.
Thank you. Just as Tim walks out the door, I just want to say thanks, Tim, and I see Matt's here and some of the other guys who presented in the last session. It's like possibly one of the hardest things you can do when you're sitting in the office is when you're trying to work out which companies you put on a Friday when there's been 60 odd presentations over 2.5 days. So really appreciate you guys for stepping up here and did a great presentation, and we'll see both of you very shortly. We'll see him at the RIU Resurgence Conference, as Chrissy just mentioned, on the 23rd and 24th of November, and we'll see Matt presenting at our RIU Explorers Conference. And for those of you who may be new to attending Vertical Ventures conferences and maybe from this beautiful Southwest region, the RIU Explorers Conference is now pushing 2,000 delegates. So it's definitely one that's worth the trip up to Fremantle and stay at the beautiful Esplanade Hotel, or do your best to find some accommodation somewhere near. It's a great show. It's also sponsored by Canaccord. So yeah, we're looking forward to that. First time we've been able to have Explorers since 2020 with borders open. So we're looking forward to getting all the East Coast people over and having a lot of fun. We just put the program together and it's going to come out next week, and there's 100 presentations over 3 days. So it's safe to say it'll be pretty busy. And what I can definitely say is that Matt won't be in the last session on day 3. But thanks again for all your support. Thanks to Canaccord. But before we do the prize draw from Lithium Plus, was it?
Indeed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pete's coming up here.
It would be remiss of me not to say how thankful we all are of the great work that you do, Chrissy,
Don't
running
you
this
try
ship.
that. Last Tim tried to butter me up as well, and that would pear-shaped for me. So don't
So-
start now.
For those of you, did anyone sit through the 3 days? Anyone here? Do you think she's worth the money? You know, she's doing a good job.
Or at least a party pie or two. Thank you.
No, she's a great asset for us, and she does a great job. So we really appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you. It was good fun. Poor old Jax this morning was very busy yesterday talking to people, and his head was a little bit sore today. So I was dinging the bell, trying to be a bit quiet. But that last session, I thought I might as well bang it out there. But it's always good fun to be with all of you. And we're such an eclectic bunch, and we're interested in eclectic investment proposals. And it's always nice to, chat and catch up. And some of you, I've known from Kalgoorlie days, Ash and Mrs. Muir. It's always interesting to catch up with us. We seem to have this really nice connection, and it's good to have you follow us along. I know a couple of you came down. Jack, was it from Perth? They came and saw us at our last conference. We mentioned this when they said, all right, we'll come down. So they got accommodation and they're hooked now. So that's really nice. And Stu does a pretty good spread too. So you'll be well fed mentally with your wallet and also in your tummy as well, which is great. So what do you reckon? Should we do this last prize? All right, Peter, come on over here. And I was thinking last year, because most of you who were here last year, remember I'm a bit of the Madam Lash topic that I said at the start holds true right the way through to the end. So you have to be in the room to win it. And if you're not in the room, too bad. Now, Jed, down the back, are you with us? You're hiding behind the curtain. Come up here, Jed. So believe it or not, we had probably 4 or 5 prizes that we gave out last year. This year we were stuck with the one, thanks to our lithium friends here. And Jed was actually one of the winners. So I reckon, Jed, just to eliminate you from the draw this time, you can do. And Jed was the young fellow you saw on those opening credits. So he Shane put the footage together, but Jed was actually doing the surfing and taking the footage of the surfing. So put your hand in, sir.
Hold on.
Oh, wait.
You have to hold that. That's the decider.
I have to hold the mystery
That's the
llama.
llama pen.
Fabulous. I'm holding the llama pen. I knew I did my university degree for some reason. Here it is. Go.
So what you have to do is grab one of the folded pieces of paper and also one of the business cards. And then the decider will toss in the llama pen. And whether the llama pen looks to the left or looks to the right will be.
This is a bit complicated for late in the
first.
day. Okay, fine.
Wh-
Wait, what's the present? Is
And
it worth it?
and
What
if
is the
they're not
prize?
here,
What's the prize?
the prize
What's
is
it worth?
so it's about $450, $425. Yeah, about $400 worth of lithium ion appliances and tools for the workshop.
And Jed, you won last year. How often have you used it, mate? Countless times?
Built a couple houses now, so.
Build a
yeah,
couple of
pretty-
houses. Awesome. Excellent. Okay. All right. Let's see who our winners are going to be.
Paper.
So we won't read out the names until we've actually finished tossing them.
All right. So now I have to toss the pen. This is like being two up. I'm from Kalgoorlie, mate. Anything could happen here. Hold on. Do you want me to toss it in the air like I would?
Oh, which one's left, which one's right?
I don't know. This is your game, not my game. Jeez.
Okay, so.
All right. Wait. Here we go. All right. I've got
Toss
one on the
again.
left, one on the right.
So looking to the left is the business card.
Mrs. Muir is going to look at me like, can I click my heels like I would do with the thing? All right. That way.
So he's looking to the right, so that's the paper.
All right, the paper this year is, and if we might have to do this 25 times, who knows? Has anyone got a trip home? So it's a fella. First name starts with Z. Zach. Is there a Zach in the room? Fabulous. No Zach. Okay. So we'll go to the left. We'll go to our first reserve. Oh, no, I don't think he's in this room either. And he's not a very good bloody builder. He built my my wedding present, actually, from his family. It was a coat rack. Actually, it is good. It's still going 18 years on. Peter Buick. Is Peter Buick in the room? Oh, he is. Pete. There you go. That is hilarious. Out the front of my house is a rack of new build. Damn, I thought I was going to be able to say it and you weren't here to defend yourself. So Peter Buick, thank you very much. You're very well. What shall you do with this new bits and pieces?
Really come around and fix what I built for you last time, mate. Yeah. But our project doesn't have lithium, but now I do. Awesome. Thanks very much.
Well done. Good on you. Thank you so much. Congratulations. Well done, Pete. Thank you, everyone. We've got lots to ponder from the last 3 days. One of the ones that I was very interested in was the lithium aspect as well. We had a couple of lithium, excuse me, the uranium aspect as well, because I think that's going to make a real change. People need to know a little bit more about what we need to do as we're going towards this net carbon zero, and uranium is obviously going to play a really big part of it. So looking forward to seeing you all in November. If not, we'll see you here same time next year. Drive safely, everyone. Thank you.